guys, Chad here from Take It or Leave It, here to talk to you today about a little movie called The Outwaters. This film follows four travelers that encounter menacing phenomena while camping in a remote stretch of the Mojave Desert. So let's get right into the pros and cons here. The pros: holy shit, this film is ruthless and it demanded my attention. Secondly, this film is freaking ruthless. I can't emphasize that enough. Not only did it demand my attention and it got my attention, it kept my attention the entire freaking movie. Alright, I'm gonna dial it back a little bit. Let's get into the characters. For me, the first 45 minutes, we really got a chance to delve into these characters, not from like a narrative perspective, but we really got to see them like in the wild and see their genuine selves. And the performances that we got were extremely authentic and very, very genuine, and I really felt like I was watching people, not actors trying to be characters, but just real people out in the wild, and that really added to the realism of the film. And although the first 45 minutes can be a little slow, we'll get into that in the negatives, but even in the first 45 minutes and throughout the film does drop these little clues and these little hints that kind of give you a little bit of something to chew on in regards to the mystery of this kind of phenomena that's going on. Not necessarily that you're gonna understand what's going on, I'm not sure I fully understand, but it does give you little things to chew on, and I really appreciated that. And like I said, the first 45 minutes is fairly slow. We're getting to the desert with the characters, and then there's this abrupt and unexpected pivot into unrelenting horror, and it just stays on that track basically for the rest of the film. And I really like that abrupt jerking of the wheel into relentless horror, because it kind of made me feel like the characters. Like, I didn't know what was going on, I was kind of catching up to the situation, and that really put me in their shoes. And this is something that some people had a problem with, but I love the unique cinematography and the use of a flashlight to only see a fraction of what was going on. I love that because it hid a ton, but it also implied and suggested so much. And this is one thing I love about lo-fi sci-fi horror, is that it lets my imagination do the heavy lifting. It lets my imagination run wild and imagine what it is I'm hearing but not seeing. And speaking of hearing but not seeing, the sound design. Holy shit, the sound design in this freaking movie is phenomenal and utterly unique and super intense and really creative. This is sensory deprivation horror at its finest, and it's this unique sound design that allowed this unique cinematography to work in the first place, because even though we couldn't see much of what was going on, we were immersed in the environment even though it's totally dark, because the sound design allowed us to be immersed in this environment. A few other quick pros to mention: I thought that the brutal gore was excellent and it had great practical special effects. I really loved that this felt like an odyssey into like death and madness. It almost felt like Dante's Inferno, and the fact that it felt like this was an odyssey automatically elevated this horror film way beyond something just like Paranormal Activity. It was much more substantive than that. But another element that made this feel more epic in scope was the fun that the filmmaker was having with space and time and maybe other dimensions. This film, as a result of that, ended up feeling much more like cosmic horror and felt way more epic and grand in scope. But I do have a few cons to mention. The first is that this film did feel a bit slow and sometimes plodding in the first 45 minutes. And the film did have Return of the King syndrome, where there were multiple times where I thought the film was coming to an end and it just didn't. It kept going and it kept kind of throwing me off. And I'm not one to be offended by gore or nudity or I don't give a shit, whatever. But like, there is a point where this film does have a body part fall in front of the camera toward the very end, and it is so disgusting and so gratuitous that it actually took me out of the movie a little bit. That's the part that kind of bothered me, is not that it was disgusting, but that it was just so literally in our face that I just felt like the director was screwing with us, and it kind of took me out of the movie a little bit. And lastly, I can't really tell if there's an actual explanation to these events that occurred, and that makes me hesitant to do any kind of deep dive into this mystery. That being said, there are two short films that are coming out pretty soon if they're not out already, and one comes before this film, one comes after this film, and I'm really hoping that those give us some insight and can give me some more confidence that yes, there is an explanation to what happened during this film, and I should continue to deep dive into it and try and figure out the mystery. But even considering some of the caveats and a few of the cons that I had with this film, I just feel that this is some really groundbreaking stuff in the low budget, lo-fi, sci-fi horror arena, and And for me, this freaking movie was so goddamn punk rock and was such sensory deprivation horror at its finest that I freaking love this movie despite some of the issues I had. And I gotta give The Outwaters a 9.2 out of 10. But that's just what I think. Take it or leave it. What do you guys think? Have you seen this movie? Are you looking forward to seeing it? Have you seen it and you were like, dude, I hated that movie? I totally get it if you do. This movie is polarizing as hell. Not everyone's gonna love it, but let me know what you think down in the comments section. Let's talk about it. And as usual, guys, thank you so much for stopping by my channel and checking out my review. I really appreciate it. Don't be afraid to hit that like and subscribe button. And until next time, I'm Chad from Take It or Leave It, and I'll check you later.
Check you later. Check you later.
Hey, man, get off my case.
Man, chicks don't want to hear that shit.